Hello, Dr. Hamawan. So today I'll be doing three things. So today I'll be showing you my flowchart that I've used for programming the conveyor belt driver, and I'll also be showing you the actual assembly code, and I'll also be demoing the final product in PIC SimLab. Okay, so let's get started. So this is the flowchart that we're looking at. So briefly, when we start, it checks whether RB4 is being pushed or not. If RB4 is pushed, then it escapes out of this constant loop. And assuming the potentiometer's starting value is 0 volts, then it will be in state 1, where LD1 is on and display 1 is on. And then it will continuously read input at analog 0. Okay, so when it reads the value, if it's still less than 0.6 volt, then it returns back to state 1 and it stays there. And yeah, this is one of the important flows. So the input at analog 0 is constantly being read and is constantly being examined to be more than 0.6 volt or less than 0.6 volt. So we have two threshold voltages that we have to pay attention here, which is 0.6 volts and 0.9 volts. So these threshold voltages were determined by the final two digits in my student ID. Alright, so when we read the input at analog 0, if it's more than 0.6 volts, what happens is that it will check whether the input is more than 0.9 volts. It'll check again. And if it's more than 0.9 volts, then we'll go to state 3. If it's less than 0.9 volts but more than 0.6 volts, then it's state 2. If it's less than 0.6 volts, then it'll be state 1. And at the end of every state, it will constantly check whether RB5 is being pushed or not. If it's being pushed, then it will end. If not, it will continue reading input at analog 0. So this is the overall flowchart. So there's three states that we are in, and the reason I've routed the checking for the reason I've implemented the stop button in this way is because the device will always be in either state 1, state 2, or state 3. So it will always check whether RB5 is being pressed at the end of after a state is being executed. And if RB5 is pressed, then the program terminates and it ends. Alright, so let's look at the corresponding code for this. So this is a bit long, so please be patient with me. So I'll try to keep it short. But yeah, so here we're including the header file for a given microcontroller, and here's some config parameters, configuring that. And here we're declaring a variable called buffer1. We store it in C block register. So it's an empty register, we can store our variables there. And here we have start. So start is where we are configuring the microcontroller to do certain tasks. So these tasks will be involving the states that we had just now. So first, TRISC-B. So TRISC-B interacts with the buttons. So TRISC-B and 4 is being set up as inputs. So RB4 and RB5 is input. So one is the on button, one is the stop button. So we are doing that. Next, we are clearing TRISC-D, which makes all the port D as outputs. So that's what's going to power port D is related to the 7-segment LED. So to make sure that works, we need to clear port D. Next, we'll be moving a certain combination of bits to ADCON 1. So we are moving that to ADCON 1. So the combination of bits were chosen based on the data sheet, and based on that combination of bits, we are setting analog 0 and analog 1, port A0 and A1 as analog, and we are making the ADC as left justified mode. So we are setting it as left justified. Next, so I'll show you why it's left justified now. So basically, our ADC will be comparing against two values, which is 0.6 volts and 0.9 volts later on. So we only need, so I did the calculations based on the VSS and VDD that we have, and based on the fact that the ADC operates with 10 bits, and we get these two binary values. So we can see the two least significant bits are 0, 0, 0, 0. So that shows that we can just take the 8 most significant bits, which is address H, and use that for the comparison. So that makes our things a bit more easier. Alright, so TRISC-A2 is related to the 7-segment LED. So we are using that as a digital output. Then we are moving a certain combination of bits to add con 0. So this just configures our ADC further. The oscillating frequency, like the frequency at which it operates at, which channel is being used as the input to the ADC, and we're turning it on. Okay, so now we have the on subroutine. So on subroutine constantly checks whether RB4 is being pressed or not. So as I mentioned earlier in the flowchart. So once RB4 is pressed, it can then escape this loop and it goes into the main loop. So this is where the ADC conversion happens. So this is where the ADC conversion happens. So the capacitor charges up, then the conversion starts, and then at the end, it gives off a 10-bit output, but we will only be using the most significant 8 bits, so address H. Then we're moving that address H value, so that 8 bits, into buffer 1 to store it. Okay, so once you're done that, we'll now be doing the 2 checks. So earlier I've mentioned we will perform the checks whether it's more than 0.6 volt and whether it's more than 0.9 volts. So for the both checks, the code will be here. So yeah, so first it will do the first check, which is whether it's more than 0.6 volts. So if it's more than 0.6 volts, then it will go to check 2 subroutine. If it's less than 0.6 volts, it will go to the first state. So in the check 2 subroutine, if it's more than 0.9 volts, it will go to the third state. If not, it will go to the second state. So that's about it. So we have the 3 states here. So what's going on in the 3 states? So what we have to pay attention first is the first 3 lines is, so this first 3 lines, is regarding the 7-segment LED. So you can see each of the states has the first 3 lines, they're the same. So this is basically the code to power the 7-segment LED output. So basically the combinations of bits that we are sending in to port D is different, but that is just to show a different number. So for first state it will show a number 1, second state it will show a number 2, and the third state will show a number 3. And next, what are the LEDs that we are powering on? So for first state, we'll be powering on the first LED, second state will be powering on the first and second LED, and the third state will be powering on the first and the third LED, and will be turning off LED 2. And another thing about the third state is that it will power a fan. So what is going on in the fan? So let's have a look here. So what is the signal that we need? So based on my student ID's second last digit, we know that the signal needs to be a 5 kHz signal with a 40% duty cycle. Okay, so now that we know this, we can then calculate the parameters needed. So the main things when it comes to PWM signal generating for microcontrollers like the PIC is that we need to have the PR2 register's value. So this is related to the frequency of the signal itself. So here we have 5 kHz. So that's the period of the PWM signal, 0.0002 seconds. And through that, we can do some calculations and some assumptions here. And we can get the PR2 of 49. So using this and the 40% duty cycle information that we have earlier regarding the signal, we can then calculate the decimal value for these 2 registers, which is CCPR1L and CCP1 cons 5th and 4th bit. So that's 80. Okay, so here we are setting that up. Okay, here we are setting that up. So here we are moving the period of the PWM into, we are moving the PR2 value into the PR2 register. Here we are setting up CCP1 con to run in PWM mode. So to do that, the second and third bits needs to be 1, 0, and first bit needs to be unknown, like it's don't care. Here we have the value for CCPR1L. So how do we do that? So CPR1L value we are calculated based on the PR2 value, and also the duty cycle we have calculated it to be 80. So that's converted to binary and sent to CCPR1L. Okay, next we clear off the flags related to timer 2. So we reset it, and then we ask it to start timer 2 on, and we set a prescaler of 4. So one thing that we can notice out of all the different states is that it continuously checks whether RB5 is being pressed or not. So at the end you can see here. So it's checking. So why does it do that? So it always checks these to check whether the stop button is being pressed. So why I implemented it this way is because the device will always be either in the first state, second state, or the third state. So it's good to always check whether RB5 is working, if RB5 is being pressed or not, so that we know that if the stop button is pressed, regardless of which state, the device will turn off. So what happens if RB5 is triggered? It then goes to the ND subroutine, which is just clears all the ports, port A, B, C, and it ends the program. If RB5 is not pressed, it then returns back to the ADC to do another measurement, another check, and then to move on to the next state that is relevant to the input value. Okay, so now let's move on to the demo. So yeah, 0, reload the hex. Okay, so now we're starting off here. So I turn on with RB4. So we are in the first state. Potentiometer is right now at 0 volts. So I increase it to a certain level. Now we're in state 2. So LED B1 only was turned on just now. So let's see it again. So now LED B2 is turned on as well. Okay, B1 and B2 are turned on. And the 7 segment is now displaying 2. So just now it was displaying 1. Next, we have state 3, which is more than 0.9 volts. So currently we are in between 0.6 and 0.9 volts. So now we are now in 0.9 volts. Okay, so more than 0.9 volts. The fan is spinning at a certain RPM with the PWM signal that we have generated earlier. LED 2, B2 is now turned off. LED B1 and B3 is turned on. And yeah, that's it. That's about it. So now I can demo whether everything will turn off when I press RB5. So in state 1, in state 3, it does turn off. Next, let's go to state 2. You can demo that as well. I'll turn off. Yep, it works. Next, the final state, state 1. Okay, so that's about it. So that's it for the demo earlier. I'll also give a brief walkthrough of the approach that I've made for this report. So introduction is basically talking about what we need to accomplish, the tools that we're using. Flowchart is the logic that we use for programming it. And this is the calculations we need to set the certain parameters, to make decisions on how to set the parameters as well. Discussions, the challenges I faced, what was going wrong when I was programming it initially, and after consulting the datasheet, I was able to figure out what was wrong and I was able to fix it. So there's a small discussion section over there. And conclusion is about how the overall project panned out. So it was successful in the end. So that's about it for this video. Thank you so much for watching it and stay safe. Thank you, sir.